Thank you so much for, see, already.
This is all gonna be good, BTS.
This episode isn't just about a woman who makes wine.
I walked away from my big job. I was at the height of my career. People thought I was crazy.
It's about a woman who makes space for art, ownership, and global storytelling.
I'm a 20-year overnight success. South African wine region unlocked my superpower. An artist say to me, this is your art. The greats are locked in. I just took the bet. I have the skill, I have the faith, I finally have the courage, I have the ambition. It's time to go. The minute you unlock this confidence, all the answers are on the other side.
Ambition doesn't need permission. It just needs a seat at the table, and we brought our own. Welcome to the So Ambitious podcast. This episode isn't just about a woman who makes wine. It's about a woman who makes space for art, ownership, and global storytelling. Thank you, Ingrid.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here with you today.
So here's where I want to start this conversation. Everything that I've heard and read about IBest Wines is centered around the story around South Africa. Talk to me a little bit more about your experience there and what has kind of brought you to this moment with the company.
Yeah, I really think it was destiny that I landed in South Africa when I did, discovered the South African wine region, and unlocked my superpower. I always tell people South Africa really helped me unlock a superpower that I didn't really know existed. I always knew that I was built for a thing, but spending time in South Africa just really unlocked this wild, ambitious person that I'd always been to the 10th power, right? The way my ideas were welcomed by the creative community, the wine community, and just folks who kind of got wind of what I was doing, it really blew my mind. And it was so important to me that I got kind of this permission, right? I didn't want to be someone that was just landing in the country saying, I'm now representing the South African wine region. I really wanted to plant my roots. I really wanted to have a community. And I really wanted to have the blessing, to represent South Africa in this way.
Yeah. Was there anything specific around what came out of you creatively? Going to the continent for the first time, South Africa was where I landed, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of what you're saying are a lot of the things that I felt there. One, being on the continent for the first time, the culture, but there were so many different layers of creativity in all aspects. So I'm wondering if there was something very specific that unleashes creativity you're talking about.
Yeah, it really was the art community. I'm an art collector, and one of my first real experiences with collecting art was from South Africa. And I think just watching the journey that artists go through to create, right? It's in their mind, it's in their heart, and then somehow their hands kind of exemplify what they've been thinking and feeling. And I think for me, I spent a lot of time just kind of studying artist process, the time that it takes them to oftentimes produce the different artworks that they're producing. And I would say that was probably the biggest influence was the art community there. And I had an artist say to me, this is your art. Approach this like this is your art. And I was like, that's it. It was like an aha moment. But I would definitely say the artist community has been my biggest influence. And not just from South Africa, around the world, but I think I've spent the most time with the artist community in South Africa.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you went from spirits and the music industry to becoming a wine negociant. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that journey?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know, I got my start as an ambassador launching a brand for Diageo. And at the time, Diageo owned a wine portfolio. So I always worked on wine, champagne, spirits, and most people know me as the spirits girl. But my early days in the industry, I was hyper exposed to the wine side of things. I grew up in the Bay Area, so I always like to say Napa is like my backyard, right? And so my very first harvest, crush camp, which is when it's harvest season and you're harvesting the grapes for the wine process, was in 2012 in Napa. And so I've had this early touch point to wine that, again, I think most people don't realize. But I've been blessed to work on some really, really big spirits brands over my career. I worked for 3 of the largest liquor companies in the world. I managed some big joint ventures. But ultimately, wine is what I love.
Yeah.
You know, wine is my passion. It's something that I literally got obsessed with, and not from drinking it, but understanding the process and the regions and the artistry that it takes to actually produce a bottle of wine.
Mm-hmm. So you've worked for Diageo, Moet, Bacardi, like the big boys. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from those brands that you've put into IBest Wines?
Oh my God, that's such a great question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always tell people I'm a 20-year overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for 20 years, I worked for some of the biggest and the baddest brands in the world.
Yeah.
And really, for me, that was where I learned how to do all of this, right? Those big organizations are institutions. They have long history of producing incredible products. And so it was like being in school. You know, and I took advantage of my career and what I was learning and opportunities to learn. And, you know, as I mentioned, I did my first harvest in 2012. That was working with Diageo. They allowed employees who were interested in doing, you know, harvests to do it. And so I think the biggest lesson that I've taken from those organizations is how to storytell.
Yeah.
You know, that there is typically a story behind these products. I think what makes myself and IBest Wines so unique is that people can really relate with my story. You know, whereas some of these bigger companies, right, there are people from years and years ago, families that you may never get to know. Yeah. Here's a woman that you may see walking down the street in Martha's Vineyard. You know what I mean? So I think there's a relatability, but I really learned how to storytell, and I really learned how to produce products at a very high level. Yeah. You know, it really is about craftsmanship, right? You can have a good brand, but what you want is a great brand.
Absolutely.
You know?
Are there any other components of storytelling that you're just like, this is a must when someone is building a brand, right? Like a good friend of mine, Andy Henriquez, is like, every story must have a point and every point must have a story. And when he said that to me years ago, it like completely rearranged all the furniture in my head, right? But again, thinking through like your just years of experience, decades of experience, is there anything else around storytelling? Like, this is the framework that someone should follow based off of what you've done? Yeah,
I think we're finally starting to see us go back to the basics. So if you think about kind of old stories that you heard, they start in the fields. They start with, right, like the hard parts. And then it gets to like the success. And I think we went through a period of time where everybody just wanted to see the instant perfect thing. We're finally back in a place where I think people really want to see someone like me pack their bags, take a big bet, take a trip to South Africa, not knowing what I was going to do when I got there, but believing I could do it. And so I think it's critical that people tell the whole story. And for the first time, I think there were a lot of people that got to see a former executive be very, very vulnerable. It wasn't the perfect ad. It wasn't the perfect piece of content. It was me shedding tears that the product had, you know, been released from customs, right? And people could just relate with that moment. And so I think my biggest advice and what I've been trying to just stay really true to is telling the whole story. Right? Because really it takes a lot of work to do this, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of ugly days. It's very messy. You know, there's a lot of beauty in the messy part. So I would say tell the whole story as much as you possibly can, and trust that your consumer, your audience, the people that want to support you, they don't want to just support what's perfect. Right. You know, so
they want to be along in the journey with
you. They
want
to be in the journey.
Yeah, and the messy middle.
And the messy middle, messy middle.
So let's take a step backwards, right? Of kind of talking about telling the whole story. Tell us a little bit more about just like some of the origins, like the early days of starting the company.
So early days, I walked away from my big job. I was at the height of my career. You know, people thought I was crazy. They were like, "You're doing what?" I'm like, I am finally going to launch this brand that has been in my head and my heart for all these years. And there's never going to be a perfect moment. It's actually usually the most uncomfortable points in your life that typically push you to the thing. And so I just took the bet. I was like, I'm going to do it. I have, you know, I have the skill. I have the faith. I finally have the courage. I have the ambition. And so it's time to go. And so a lot of it was doing research. It started with the data, with the research. What's the real opportunity here? Yes, I love wine. Yes, I understand this is a big industry, but what is the real opportunity? Who's the consumer? What does it look like? And then how do I find a partner that is going to allow me to do exactly what I want to do? Because it was really important for me to have proprietary wines. I didn't want to white label products that already existed. And so I would say a lot of research, a lot of reaching out to my network, and also literally discovering a new network in South Africa and saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. A lot of trial and error. There were a lot of moments that I was like, this isn't right. We got to start all over again. A lot of, here's the deadline. The deadline comes and goes, but being really flexible and being very vulnerable and being willing to ask for help. That's what the early days really looked like. And just having a lot of faith that I could pull this thing off, because it's not an easy thing to do, to actually take something from your head and your heart and then actually see it to fruition.
You said a lot of data and kind of research, but it sounds like a lot of questions as well, right? Can you talk to us a little bit about like some of those conversations? Because I imagine for everyone that said, yes, do this, there were other people that asked you questions that made you even question, should you do this to begin with? How did you navigate like the naysayers? And sometimes like the naysayers aren't even like blaring, like absolutely no. It's just like a little like, you sure, sis?
Yeah.
But anything that you can kind of share on any of those conversations, because I know along my entrepreneurial journey, I've had a lot of those conversations for people that I love, people that I trust. It's just like, you sure you should leave that good job, right? Or you sure this is the thing that you should be doing, or how you should be spending your money or your time. But talk to us a little bit more about that.
Ooh, child, the naysayers. And it's the ones that aren't necessarily having the conversation with you, but you feel the energy.
Yeah.
And, remember, I was at the height of my game, working for big organizations. I was a check writer. So I was the person supporting a lot of people's ideas and moments. And when you're no longer that, it does shift. There is an energy shift. I also had people, they thought I was absolutely crazy that I wouldn't launch a brand from California, where I'm from, much easier, right, than taking a 20-hour flight to South Africa. And so I had a lot of people saying, what are you doing? Are you crazy? I had a lot of people in the industry saying, no one's checking for wine from South Africa. And it was shocking to me. There were people that I thought were really progressive and creative, but were very negative, right, about my ambition. And what it did for me was it made me realize that I needed to get real focused, get real quiet, and it was lonely. A lot of people ask me, how did you do this in 3 years? How did you build and launch a brand in 3 years? And I always say 20 years of experience, and then 3 years of a lot of time by myself. Because I think oftentimes, those voices and some of the commentary can slow you down. It can create a doubt that maybe didn't exist, And so, yes, there was a lot of that, but it was healthy, right? Because I was able to understand where to put those things and not let them be a barrier to my journey and obviously my destiny.
Do you feel like you're good at compartmentalizing? Like, hey, I know where to put this kind of like on a shelf so that I can stay laser focused? Or is that something that is, because for me, that's been things that I've succeeded at. Like, all right, I can separate the noise or the distractions or the shiny objects of all the other things that I can do with my career or do with the business. Or I can kind of put this on the shelf and just like literally have like just laser focus on the thing. Like, how do you balance the two or not?
Yeah, I think IBest Wines taught me how to do that.
Okay.
I think the relentless pursuit of building the thing that had been in my head and in my heart taught me how to kind of quiet all the noise. And I was able to do that before, but I've mastered it now, and I have a lot of people come to me and they say, how do you do this? I'm like, you got to focus. If you talk to anyone who's really great and who has done things that, has been admirable or influential, it's typically because they have buckled down and really focused. The greats are locked in. And so, this process, I'm grateful to the brand for teaching me how to fully lock in a way that I had never been locked in before.
How do you lock in? Like, what's your process? I know for me, a long flight helps me focus in a way that most times I can't even explain. I think there's all this data and science now, right? And I think it's like, you no longer have the dings, you can't pick up the phone. And so I'm able to get so much work done just being on a flight. And so there's been times where I just take a flight somewhere because it's the only way to kind of quiet all the things, right? Going to the beach is like another way, right? I'm a Pisces, so that's my happy place, right? And I can focus not so much on the business, but like almost kind of come back into my body and myself to have like a level of clarity around things, right? I can't get any of that done with my kids at home, right? And then when my back is up against the wall, or I'm in like, I call it seasons of like spear fishing, right? Where I have to be, hey, we need to raise this funding. Like we need to close this deal. We need to open this new thing. And like my back is up against the wall and I put together like a spearfish list, right? So I'm like, these are 10 or 20 people that I know if I just get on the phone with them, I make the right introduction, I'm laser focused, right? So it's not like casting the big net when you're fishing. It's literally taking the spear and throwing it towards the target, right? And I know when I interact any of those three things in different kind of moments, then I get things across the finish line. But if not, I let everything else kind of come into my sphere. And so I know a lot of CEOs, even executives talk about like focus, but I want to know like what does focus like truly mean for you?
Yeah, well, listen, a flight is one of them. And I was taking a very long flight 4 times a year. I was traveling to South Africa and upward of 4 times a year. I was traveling to South Africa initially alone. No one was coming with me. And that was by choice. I had a lot of people saying, we want to go, because in their mind, like, let's go hang. I'm like, I'm going to build a thing. I can't hang with you, you know? So a lot of alone time, flights, I would agree, because you're just, no Wi-Fi, no dinging, no anything. You can upload all those emails that are going to send as soon as you land. For me, walking, you know, I start my days religiously with a walk, and the things that you're able to just really kind of let your mind venture to when you're on just a long walk is pretty amazing. You know, I like to say I built this brand walking, you know, my neighborhood. And walking in South Africa and kind of just getting lost and discovering. So walking is a big one for me. I have a lot of mentees. And I would say mentorship for me fuels me in a way that keeps me invigorated and excited and in my creative bag, because these young women are just so dynamic. And the things they're working on and they want my advice on, I'm like, that is so good. And so interestingly enough, my commitment to mentorship fuels me in a way that I think gives back to whatever my process or my locking in needs. But I would say walking, a flight, time talking to younger people, younger creatives are probably the 3 ways that I kind of been able to lock in a way that's been a bit different than in the past. Yeah.
So you have mentees. Do your mentees ever not listen to you?
All the time.
Yeah.
And then they call me and say, I didn't listen to you. And I, you know, and that's fine. That's the process, right? Because I'm certainly not here to tell them what to do. I'm here to help them start to critically think in a different kind of way, to be open, right? To a little bit of wisdom from someone who's probably been in the situation before. But yeah, all the time. And it's healthy, right? They need to go through their individual process, but then there's a lot of them that listen and unlock. You know, you match that youth with some wisdom and some ambition. Oh my God, sky's the limit. So it's a mixed bag, because they're all just very brilliant, inquisitive, and ambitious women.
Yeah. Do you feel in the conversations that you're having with them that there are certain questions or things that they should be asking you for, but they're not, right? Like we, with Black Ambition, we mentor 250 entrepreneurs a year, right? And I feel like a lot of them have gotten comfortable asking advice, but they don't necessarily like ask for like the direct connection. And that's something that we have to work on with them to be comfortable doing that. But I'm curious because you mentioned so many really dynamic women that you mentor. Like, do you feel like there's this thing that you're like, man, I realize they don't ask me this, or they don't ask me this enough?
Yeah, I would say the thing that I realize is that oftentimes what it is that they need help with is confidence. And that isn't something you can give someone. You can give them advice on things that can help them increase their confidence or be aware that their confidence is getting in the way. But oftentimes they don't even realize that it's that. And so usually it's me helping them understand the minute you unlock this confidence, all the answers are on the other side of that. And so I would say 90% of the conversations and just some of the focus work, some of the homework I give them to do is around building this level of confidence so they know to even ask for the thing. If you're not confident, you're not asking for me to connect you with the hiring person for X because you're not confident. You're stuck in the like, I'm kind of trying to figure out how to get this job. And it's like, well, confidence would have told you, hey, I recognize that you're connected to these 5 people. Do you think you can send that email for me? And so the majority of it is helping them uplift themselves in a society that's kind of smothered their confidence.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? And so that's, I would say it kind of starts there. But this younger generation, I mean, they are wired to go for the thing. And they have this innate entrepreneurial spirit that oftentimes as kind of a new entrepreneur, right? Again, I'm feeding off of them. I'm like, you did what? You started a what? When? You know, it's so inspiring to watch them just go. You know, where my generation very much so was like, you got that job? Yeah, you stay there. You know, they're just not wired that way. So they have it's interesting, they have the confidence in that area, but then there are some confidence issues in other areas. And I think a lot of the other areas are just because of society.
You know? So I see this high level of boldness and audacity that like, I love, I appreciate. But then also like the confidence part, I feel is waning in the moments where they need to show that aspect the most, right? So 2 things I want to chat with you about. One, I had a mentor of mine talk to me about like confidence, right? And he's like, confidence, the root word of that means to confide. And confide, you confide in people that you trust. And so it's not bravado, it's not ego that many of like our mentees feel that they need to emulate. It's just asking themselves, do they trust themselves? Because you enact a whole different level of who you need to be and show up and be big, bold, and bad, right? And so like that has always stuck with me because it's like, yes, do I trust myself in the moments that are needed the most? And then it's this other conversation or this really old video that I saw on the show called Iconoclast. I don't even know if you remember it. I think there was some alcohol brand that was like sponsoring it at the time. I think Grey Goose was sponsoring it at the time. And it's a conversation between 2 icons from completely different worlds. And so it's a pairing between Dave Chappelle and Maya Angelou, 2 people that you would never put in conversation together, right? And it was right after Dave Chappelle came back from saying no to, I'm forgetting the name.
Company.
The big company, that right? Like the media company, the comedy deal. Everybody thought he was crazy.
Was it Comedy Central?
Yeah. Everybody thought he was crazy. How are you going to walk away from $50 million? He went to the continent and then he came back and one of the first conversations he had was with Maya Angelou. And to sum up the conversation, they were just talking about like this moment where you feel like uncertain about what you should do, or you feel like you're being praised in a lot of ways, right? Like you've had an amazing career. And what she said to him was 2 things. She said, don't pick it up and don't put it down. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because if you pick it up when they say you're amazing and you're everything and blah, 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 you also have to pick it up when they say you're nothing and you're going to be a nobody. But I feel like those 2 things are connected in like the journey of your career too, in the sense of like, hey, you've heard naysayers. You've also said, I'm going to do this regardless. I have this amazing like storied career in entertainment and then also in the spirits industry. And I'm going to do this regardless, right? And so how did you personally get that trust? Is the question that I want to ask you when we know our mentees kind of struggle with the confidence the bravado, but like I feel like there's a trust that you've always had, or maybe a compass that I would love for you to just share with us a little bit more.
Yeah, I realized that I have been doing this work because I love it.
Yeah.
So all those years in the wine and spirits industry, I fell in love with learning about the industry. I fell in love with, again, the stories, the process, the craftsmanship, spending time in distilleries, learning how to actually make the products. And so I think when you're in love with something and you're not in it because someone loves you for being in it, but you're in it because you actually love it, it's so different.
Yeah.
And so IBest Wines was built because of that love for what I do. And I don't think I would have been able to do this if I was doing it for other people loving what I was doing. I would have launched from California because that's what most people were telling me I should have done. You know, or I wouldn't have left my last job because most people were saying, you are killing it, right? But it really is this story of like, I love what I do. And the reason why the brand feels so good and why we're doing as much as we're doing in under 2 years is because I love it. And so I think oftentimes when you're having these conversations with younger people, they're not necessarily looking for what they love. They're looking for what's going to make them money, what's going to do this, what's going to do that. And don't get me wrong, I'm building this to make money.
Of course, yeah.
But I love what I do. I love that I've put women in position to have equity in a business. I love that I've taken all these years and I'm now, you know, applying it to my own brand. And I think it really starts with that because no ego exists there. If it's that you simply just love it.
Purest sense of you,
it's just the purest sense of me. And most people, I don't even think look at it that way. You know, they miss the part that like, she really loves this. She loves what she's doing. It connects me to the community I want to be connected to. It allows me to support folks. When I see the brand in different places where we've supported events and moments, I'm like, this is really cool. You know, when I sit at dinner parties and they're pouring the wine and there's these beautiful conversations about all kind of things, I'm like, this is exactly why I actually, you know, launched this brand. So for me, it all sits with do what you love. And then you don't have to worry about picking up anything. The only thing you're picking up is what you love. You know, it's that simple.
But do you feel that there have been, because I don't know if we're always honest in the moments where we don't love the thing, right? Because, you know, you have to hire or fire somebody, right? Or like something is not working out. A deal didn't go the way that we did. Or like, I feel like there are moments where you're just like, I have to go deeper into my why, but right now it ain't clicking for me, right? And I've had a lot of those experiences, but I think it's always helpful because when we say, just do what you love, like you have a love for it, right? I get that, but I don't know if people always get it if they're not super connected to their why, which is what you're saying, right? But have there been moments where you're just like, this ain't it today, right? And it hasn't been it this month, or it hasn't been it this quarter. And I'm trying to figure out how to fall back in love with this thing that I know I love, but right now, you know, it's not clicking for me.
Yeah, I could give you 2 real examples of that. The last brand that I worked on was a vodka brand and a tequila brand. And I didn't love spirits anymore. My life had transitioned past kind of those moments where I was drinking spirits. I love wine. It was really at the center of everything that I did, whether it was hanging out with friends or going to an art gallery and sipping some wine or taking a vacation to check out a new wine region. And so part of my critical decision was because I was like, I don't love this part of the business anymore. So I want to focus myself on the part of the business that I really love. And that's hard for folks because that's kind of radical, right? It's like, I don't love this anymore. I'm ready to love the parts of it that I do love. And so that's one example. Another real example is we haven't posted on our business social media page in like 3 months. And the reason why is because all of the campaign kind of stuff that's been coming my way, I'm like, I don't love it, y'all.
Yeah.
And I'd rather us not do anything than to just put something up that represents the brand that I actually don't love. And you don't really love it either.
Yeah.
You just feel like we need to post because
we need to do something.
Yeah. And sometimes the doing something isn't what you need to do.
Yeah.
And so people have said to me, how do you have a brand that's less than 2 years old? You haven't posted on social in 3 months, but your brand still has momentum. It's because I'm staying true to myself, staying true to what I love, staying true to the brand ethos. And I'm not willing to negotiate with that. You know, and I trust that we'll be okay. I'll trust that we're going to post again and we're going to post when we feel good about the things that we're posting. So I think those are 2 actual examples of like, it's okay to pause. It's okay to like reset, and it's okay to stay really true to what feels good and as close to what you love as possible, right? Because to me, again, that's where there's no ego. There's trusting the process, right? A lot of this too is just having pure trust in the process, which we oftentimes, I think, struggle with, is this trusting that this is all a process and it's messy.
You know? And also things are going to be okay, right?
And everything's
like if you
okay.
don't post for 3 months. For the most, like your super fans, your customers, even like your investors, like they're not going anywhere because they need you to perform well, right?
And they see all the other stuff we're doing. There's all this other stuff that goes into an ecosystem of a business. And I think, unfortunately, we've placed value in certain areas, high value in certain areas that, are valuable. Listen, social media, I launched the brand on social media. I'm still active, right? I'm still sharing the things, but we haven't had what I feel is the right thing to just kind of keep the page driving. And so it's been a real lesson in trust in the process.
Right.
No, would I have ever told you that I would stop posting, but it hasn't killed us. You know?
And it's literally only one part of the business.
It's one part of the business. And there's a lot of damn parts of this business.
Right. And one part of how you communicate, right? Because I think that's the kind of going back to like the shiny object, right? People immediately are responsive to the shiny object, or they're immediately responsive to like, oh my gosh, the business must have fell off. Or I think even in this environment where we're seeing like a lot of Black businesses close in this environment of a really crazy economic time for all of us. It's so uncertain on so many different levels. I think the most immediate thing is like to either tear something down or like question it. And just like, the business is still functioning. Like it's still a whole business, right? And I think looking at how you communicate and interface and interact with a business to kind of give it the grace that it needs, that when it turns back around or when it turns on a different communication channel, like everything will do what it needs to do so that it can do what it needs to do for you as an individual.
Right. And I think the other part that we don't talk about enough is like, my business is just shy of 2 years old. We celebrate our birthday October 10th. And the reality is we've already defied what the data shows. The data shows that between 12 and 18 months, businesses that have been launched from Black and brown women fold. And so if it means that I haven't posted for 3 months, but the business is still standing, we're still thriving, we still have customers, their stores sold out, we're doing something right. And to give yourself that grace in this process, because this is not easy. You know, it requires a lot of decisions that oftentimes people may not understand why you're making them, but you understand, you know, why you're making them. And I'm just grateful that we've kind of surpassed what the data says we wouldn't. You know?
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about like the investment side of the company, right? Like, I know we talked about the conversations that you've had over the years of just getting to a process of like starting, growing, building, and kind of sustaining the thing. But who was mentoring or who has mentored or consulted you to help you get to 2 years and really be thinking about like the trajectory of where you're going with the business?
Ooh, this is such a great question. And I don't think we talk about this piece enough. So coming from a corporate background, I knew nothing about fundraising. I knew nothing about that piece of this whole entrepreneur journey. I want to be fully transparent because I want to help somebody else. I made great decisions in my career and just from a finance perspective. And I invested 100% of my own capital to build and launch IBest Wines. It wasn't until 3 months after launching that I had friends saying, when you gonna start raising money? And I'm like, I'm doing this myself. I'm fine. And they're like, oh, no, that's not how this works. And I was very naive to the journey. In my mind, I was fine. I knew people who were going to support. I was building this great brand. And thank God for beautiful friends who don't come with judgment, but come with a strategy and a plan. And who said to me, it doesn't work like that, Ingrid. And so 3 months in after launching the brand, I had 5 Black women, all friends of mine, say, we want to invest in you. We believe in you. We see what you're doing. And we want to kick off your friends and family investment. And that was the moment that I realized, oh, yeah, I got to raise money. Like it just, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You know? And so they were the first investors. And then I had to teach myself what it meant to fundraise, what it meant to understand your cap table, what it meant to have just good business hygiene when you're looking at bringing in investors. And one of my investors introduced me to Monique Idolette Mosley. And she has been like a fairy godmother. To me. She came in and she said, don't worry. This is, most of us don't know. We're not sharing the information and let me help you and let me guide you and let me teach you. And she was tough. There were days that she would say, I'm not trying to beat you up. I just want to make sure you get this right. And I'm so grateful to her. I also had quite a bit of just folks sharing information. Hey, do you have this? Do you know about this? I had someone connect me. One of my investors, Wamimo Abbey, connected me with his law group, one of my legal teams, who really helped us just kind of form things and prepare ourselves for investors. And so to date, we have about 11 investors. We are still raising. It has been very hard. We have not been able to hit our initial milestone for investing. It hasn't stopped us. We have a lot of faith, a lot of courage, but it's been hard, you know, and our investors believe in us and believe in me. You know, honestly, the money that we've been able to invest, they're investing in Ingrid best.
Absolutely.
They understand that I'm ambitious, I'm courageous, and I know what I'm doing. And we have a great product. But I'm learning every single day. And it's a tough environment. You know, it is a tough environment. But what we've been able to do with the brand, launching in such a tough environment, kind of signals that we got something good.
Oh, yeah,
because when you launch in an environment where it's like, don't worry, that raise is going to be easy and this and that, you know, that could be a little bit of fool's gold, you know, and that hasn't been our story at all. I'm also really fortunate that I have 5 Black women that I tapped to help build the brand alongside me. They all have equity. It was really important for me that they had equity in the business because I built so many brands and walked away with nothing. You know, I never had equity in any of those brands. So between our early investors, the group of women who have helped me build and lead the charge, I feel so blessed. But it is a challenge. And we are every day trying to figure out, you know, who can we reach out to you know, potentially help us get to this next phase in the business, because it's pretty difficult to scale if you don't have the capital you need to scale. But I think a lot of women who are thinking about leaving corporate America and building whatever the business is, my advice to them is you got to make sure and find you a fairy godmother.
Absolutely.
Like a Monique who will teach you, not judge you, and push you to understand, you know, just the core basics of what it looks like to actually go out and raise funding. And I'm grateful I didn't raise the funding before learning, because that's a disaster. You know, I was able to do those things simultaneously. So I've been guarded and protected by a lot of things that I think we often see go wrong, right? I haven't overraised. I have none of those things. But yeah, we still have to meet our raise milestones.
One, wow, thank you for sharing that. And then 2, you're right about Monique, right? I've known her for years. She supported us in Black Ambition in so many capacities. She has a and I hope she doesn't take this the wrong way, a grandmother spirit about her in the sense of the advice that you need. You can come to her with the questions that most people will feel are dumb questions that you should know. And she's going to give you the advice that you need. Maybe not everything that you always want in like her response to you. But then also like with this fierceness of what I've seen her do and how I've seen her navigate the investment space of who she's invested in. But then there have been times where I've sent entrepreneurs her way and she's like, this is not it, Felicia. And I appreciate the honesty of saying like, you need to do better. But then they also, who you're sending me needs to be better. Yeah. So that it turns into an investment. So I've always appreciated like that dynamic, that duality of her being able to play both roles in that. But then also how she's like supported her entrepreneurs that are part of her portfolio.
Yeah, she has a level of honesty that there should be a case study around the honesty, because I think that is one of the critical things that are missing in this journey. Yeah. Had anyone just said to me, when I said, I'm launching this brand, do you have a raise strategy? No one said it to me. They might have been thinking it. What people said to me were the things that did not serve me at all. Like, you should be doing California. That don't serve me. Right. But do you have an actual raise strategy? Do you have someone who could advise you? I wish that I had people that were willing to have that level of honesty that Monique has. Yeah. And one of the most biggest and most beautiful compliments I've ever received was from Monique. She's like, I believe in you. Yeah. And I know it's not easy to get her belief. She has a high standard. Absolutely. And so I'm just, again, grateful that the universe has heard me. When I'm praying and asking for the thing, guide me, teach me, show me. What is it that I need to be the best founder I can be? Make sure that I'm not in my own way. Yeah, yeah. Bring the people to me that are going to have those honest conversations with me and help me learn the things that I need to learn to build this business to be acquired, because ultimately that's what I'm building it for. That's my goal, you know? And so I'm very grateful to her for her time, because she spent a lot of time with me, a lot.
When I hear you say 11 investors, right? And 5 like Black women that have invested in your company. I would love for you to just share a little bit more about that, right? Yeah. Because I think the trust part of what you chatted about is so much of a part of the equation in the investment space, period. But then when it's people that know you and trust you, but then you've also taken in their money, I imagine like that dynamic either shifts your obligation at the end of the day, but I feel like it also helps you kind of carry like this a whole other sense of responsibility because of who it is and because you're close to those people. Is there anything that you can share of like lessons learned in that process when it's people that you know that have trusted your business, have said yes to it, but then there's also this other responsibility of making sure that you're a good steward to them with their trust?
Yeah. So first of all, when people give you their money and people who are hardworking, everyday folks who have just saved. Yeah. And so one of my investors, Donna, she's worked at the Urban League for many years. She has a job. Yeah. She just has a job and she has saved her money and she's my friend and she believed in me. Yeah. Ricky Hughes, Emmy Award winning, Grammy Award winning, powerhouse behind Dave Chappelle, who I hugely admire, said, I believe in you, girl. Take my money. She was calling me. Will you take my money? Yeah. Is your investment set up? Because I want to take it. You know, the feeling that you get from people wanting to invest in your dream is not something that I can articulate. You know, Aaron Hall, a longtime wine and spirits vet, also founder of an organization that has a partnership with Diageo, an incubator called Pronghorn, dear friend, who also said, listen, Pronghorn isn't investing in wine because it's a spirits-based thing, but I personally want to invest in IBest Wines. Again, one of those moments where you say, wow, this is amazing. Aisha Sheldon, powerhouse financial, has a financial background, but also a dynamic art collector who I met in the art community who said, I believe in what you're doing. And we didn't even know each other long. We had met in this community, but just again, believed in what I was doing. And then Robin, the founder of Baller Alert. Media powerhouse, also investor, who also said, listen, I believe in what you're doing. You know, all these women have worked very hard to get to where they're going. Our relationships were all organic. They formed in different kind of ways, and we're at different points. We were at different points in our friendship, but ultimately they invested believe in you money. And I think, listen, I believed in myself enough to invest my own money, right? But then to have 5 women who you just respect and who you've watched and who you admire say, I'm willing to take this bet. And right now at this stage of this business, that's what it is. It's just a bet. It just unlocks this level of responsibility that, again, I can't articulate. I have such a responsibility to perform based on their belief and based on the belief that I have in myself. And I'm grateful and blessed that I have these kind of women in my life. There's a lot of people that was a roster that I just named. Do you know what I mean? That don't have those kind of people in their life who are willing to be patient, who are willing to understand that we're far from being in the green when it comes to revenue. We're less than 2 years old. They're patient. They're willing to add their strategic value, because I think that's another thing, right? There's money, but then there's strategic value that you get from certain investors. And I don't think we talk about that enough. People who know the thing to unlock the thing, that are willing to say your name in the rooms. And so for me, that's equally as important than just the capital.
No, I mean, the grace, right? I think the sharing in the vision as well, right? Because that's always an important part of the process. But then you also just talked about, aside from the capital that they've invested, there's this the whole other side of capital that's equally important. So the connections that they're making, they're also leveraging their relationships, because they want to not only see you succeed, but they want to see the business succeed because they want to return, right? That allows them to do other investments as well. And I don't know if people put enough, I don't know if in the investment process of early stage entrepreneurs, do they fully understand all these other tangibles and intangibles that you also have to be thinking about when you're getting the connection, when you're getting the investment, but especially when it's someone that trusts you at that level, right? And I think getting institutional capital is important, working with a fund, all of these things happen a part of the process, but it's always been different when it's someone that has seen you, is betting on you. And I think it's a testament to the vision that you have created and ultimately where you're trying to go. In that process of, you said hey, we are here, we're building this over the course of 2 years. We got to get here. Has there been anything a part of the journey or the conversations or how you retool the vision to keep them excited, but then also keep new customers excited along in the process? I imagine the vision that you have changes conversation by conversation, customer by customer, but anything that you can share on what that vision is and how it continues to grow over time? So I think a couple things has been super transparent. We're constantly doing check-ins quarterly with them to kind of share what's happening with the business, whether it be good or bad, right? I think instituting a practice of sharing, no matter what it is so important. You can't just share with your investors the wins. Right. Because then you set yourself up for when there is not a win, because there's bound to be, people just assume that there's a bigger problem, right? So I think really making sure that you're sharing across the board, no matter what it looks like. I had one investor say to me, how's everything going? I see the brand hasn't posted. And being comfortable to just tell them why. Don't come up with a big thing. It's, again, I think that level of transparency is so critical. And then taking the time to educate your investors on the business that and the industry that they've invested in. I happen to be someone with 20 years of wine and spirits industry, and none of these people have 20 years of wine, right? So making sure that you're not taking for granted that they know what you're talking about when you're saying, we're in a 3-tier system, we're trying to close a distributor, we need a distributor to do this. So spending that time to really educate them on what are the strategic ways that you can support me and help me? And let me outline them for you so that
I'm not assuming that you know how to be a great investor to me, and you're not assuming I know how to be the best founder that you're kind of expecting. Yeah, it's a process together. And so spending a lot of time just kind of bringing them into the fold. They're busy, right? So a lot of this stuff is happening via email, one-on-one phone calls. But I also think one of the things we've done is gotten real specific on asking for what we need. So if it's scheduling a one-on-one call, I know you're connected with X, Y, and Z. This is why I need that help. This is what it means for the business. So it's been a lot of spending time around just kind of, I think, educating them and really bringing them into the process. I don't think we've made any pivots. I'll share with you, and this is the first time anyone's hearing this. As of 5 days ago, products from South Africa have some of the highest tariffs. Yeah. That is not something that we've had to think about until now. We had forecasted our business, so we had enough wine in the States to service what we needed. But moving forward, we do have to think about it, and it is going to impact our business. And so that, for instance, is going to be something that could impact our pricing, could impact kind of the fluctuations and when we do orders and buying and all that kind of good stuff. And so we will consult with our investors to say, here's where we've been from a price perspective. This is where we need to go because of these tariffs. And so that would be another just real example of like, we have to respond to the environment that we're in. And it is going to mean that we're going to have to change what we originally kind of stated was our mission, whether it be from pricing and forecasting and just kind of our overall operational outlook.
Like that's the time we're in, right? It's crazy. Like we talked about earlier, it's messy.
It's messy
in ways that like all the best forecasting could not prepare for this moment. But then what you also talked about is just like be transparent with your partners, your investors, your customers. I remember in the early days of like raising money from a funder, and we would send all the shiny decks, all the shiny updates. He's like, Felicia, I don't think any of that's true.
No.
He's like, nothing can be perfect in what you guys are building. Tell me what's keeping you up at night. And for me, in that point, it was just like, I felt like, and I feel like we grow up feeling everything has to be buttoned up.
Yeah.
And if it's not buttoned up, it does not unlock any opportunities, any opportunities for growth. It always has to be perfect. And in that process of fundraising for the very first time, I realized like, no, let go of all of that.
Yeah.
And the people that trust you, they trust you to be transparent with them so that they can help you.
Right.
And they trust you to come to them with the difficult and hard questions so that they can help you.
That's right.
That is why they're there. And that's what I'm hearing from you, right? Is like our audience, trust the people that have already said yes to you, that have already bet on you, and trust them to help you solve those problems as well. Like as we close, I want to chat with you about legacy, right? Because we're here filming season 3 of the podcast in Martha's Vineyard. There's so much legacy of our people. I think there's a lot of legacy while wine drinking as well, and the conversations that have started. What is the legacy of what you're building look like for you? And I know we were talking about like your ride that you took, just kind of going through the different cities in the vineyard. But if there's anything relating to the vineyard and legacy, I'd love to close with something around that.
Yeah, you know, when I got the invitation to come sit across from you in Martha's Vineyard to tape this episode, I was smiling on the inside because a big part of my career with LVMH, working on the Moet Hennessy brands, Massachusetts was my market. And I was relentless about us activating on this island. Selfishly, because I didn't grow up coming to Martha's Vineyard. That wasn't my story. But I knew people who did. And there was a part of me that was like, I want to experience that. And I believe that we can experience the things we've always wanted to experience at any point in our life. There's no barrier to that. We're our only barrier, right? And so I was very fortunate to be able to activate on this island for years and do parties on this island and just have a good old time. And so last year was the first year that IBest Wines got its first point of distribution on this island and was sold right next to the brands that I helped to build years ago. And so that was one of those aha moments. I'm like, look at us, we're on the island. And so it's so incredibly special for me to be here, to have the brand represented here, to be taping this podcast here. All those years as a young person saying, I wonder what that Martha's Vineyard's like, and wishing that I kind of had that experience. I'm having that experience now. And for me, that's part of this entire legacy that I think we're all building together, right? Watching what's happened on this island. The fact that you guys are even taping here is fantastic. And I think ultimately I want my legacy to be of someone who just believed in herself.
Absolutely.
That was willing to take the bet, that was willing to share the messy, the beautiful, and everything in between, that built a beautiful brand that really represents this global conversation and global connectivity, and that ultimately has a historical acquisition.
Absolutely.
Because that's why I'm building it. Yeah. And one of the things that Monique taught me was that's how we gonna close the wealth gap in this country. Yeah. We need big thinkers like you. We need big, audacious brands like IBest Wines. And we need those big acquisitions that sometimes our community doesn't understand, And so I really want my legacy to be that of someone who was thinking about all those things, right. But that did it with grace, did it with a level of humility, but also a lot of confidence.
Absolutely.
That's what I want my legacy to be.
Ingrid, I feel like let's toast to that.
Yes. Let's do it.
My last question for you is around uninterrupted, right? Because that is kind of the ethos of Black Ambition, is creating uninterrupted pathways to entrepreneurship and through entrepreneurship. And then the other part about that is ambition, right? Ambition uninterrupted. And so who is Ingrid uninterrupted? If nothing stood in the way of you achieving success, what would that look like with IBest Wines? And I feel like I hear legacy, but I feel like there's a little bit more if nothing ever stood in the way.
Yeah, nothing standing in the way, because I don't believe that it is. Yeah. I think all of it that we're going through, because we're going through things and there are challenges, but it's all about what you believe. And so for me, I'm like, there is nothing in my way. I'm building this thing. We're going to be acquired by probably one of the companies that I used to work for. Go figure, right? I will be able to take that wealth and help and invest in other incredible, audacious entrepreneurs. And I really, really want to be on a board of a couple museums because I love the art space, and I really want to help to influence institutional change in the art community. And so I'm really bullish about that. And I'm going to build this thing to be a global brand that people are celebrating, and that people will look back and say, there was this woman named Ingrid, she was from the Bay Area and she did, and there's nothing in my way. That's what will happen. And it might be messy, but it will happen. So, and then the last thing is I want to catch the bus again on Martha's Vineyard, because I did that yesterday. And so I want to be able to just do the things that are free. That we oftentimes forget to do. And so I've really been intentional about that lately. It's like nothing's in our way from doing those free, simple things that bring us joy. And I think we're all chasing this success and we are so ambitious. But I also think we need to be reminded of those simple things that make us happy and joyful. And I want to maintain that balance.
I love that. So I heard grace from you in our conversation today. I heard ask the hard questions of the people that love you and trust you and support you. I hear pause and reset your communication, your business when you need to recalibrate, because ultimately you're trying to be global and take over the world.
Yes.
But then I also heard give back, right? So that you can invest in other entrepreneurs to go out and do really big, bold things. And then the last thing I heard is take the train.
Take the train, take the bus, take the things that are going to give you, I think, those moments of just freedom, right? That we all need. I'm telling you, I think people think this is just glamorous, that we're just around here. We wake up and everything just kind of, and it's just not.
Not, yeah.
It's just the reality is it's not. And so something as simple as riding the bus in Martha's Vineyard yesterday brought me so much joy.
And that's it. The last part is joy.
Yeah, that's
I love it. Thank you so much for your time today, Ingrid.
I appreciate you. And thank you for everything you guys are doing with Black Ambition.
Thank you.
It's necessary. We need it more now than ever. And anything I can do to support you, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.